What's up, y'all? Jake here, aka Cinder Tarnished. It has been a minute. Um, Honestly, don't even know the last time I recorded. Several months ago. I in the warm months, I travel a lot for work, so recording and editing and all that kind of stuff, and doing it on a consistent basis just isn't really, not really an option for me, unfortunately. So, but I am excited to jump back in. I've seen some DLC kind of like speculation that it's going to get announced soon and all that kind of stuff. So I want to get this character kind of back on track and up to speed. I also have, I've been thinking a lot about this. I'm going to suck really bad for the next, like, at least this episode, because it's literally been months since I even touched the game. This is the first time in a long time that I've picked up a controller to play a video game, so just bear with me here. But I wanted to start now, one, because I'm back home kind of on a consistent basis, so I can start pumping these out again. And two, I've been, my brain has been like nonstop with lore stuff. I kind of started watching a few videos of other people, and yeah, it got me excited to get back in it, and kind of just got my brain back in that space of kind of speculation and where the DLC is going to go. Obviously, I kind of have my own spin on it. I truly believe that this is all internal experience for America. I think America is the subject of basically some sort of psychological development. And I think my previous lore videos have kind of talked about that quite a bit, but just to kind of get my own self back up to speed and in that mindset. Basically, I believe that the whole lands between is inside America's head. She is the subject matter, so she is the god. And there's different parts of one's psyche that is represented. The ego, the shadow, the animus, all these different aspects of one's character that come together to form basically who we are as an individual, right? We all have specific character traits that shine through at different moments, but as we develop and as we grow, those different traits shine through either brighter or dimmer depending on where you are at in your psychological development, and kind of based off of the situation that you're in, which I explained in my Glowmite Queen videos. We all have that shadow within us, right? We all have those character traits that are kind of mean, nasty, undesirable, all those different types of things that come out sometimes when it's appropriate and other times when it's inappropriate. But we all have it, and the more that we try to pretend that we don't, and the more that we ignore it, the bigger and basically the more energy we're giving it to grow. It's kind of like a release valve. If you don't let that pressure go from time to time, it builds up and builds up and builds up until it just explodes. But before I go into this boss fight, I kind of just wanted to make this video today, one, to kind of just get back on track, like I said, but two, I had this thought while I was working out this morning. I was thinking about, there's all of this contextual and item description evidence that is constantly focusing you in on Melania, Melina, and Mikola. Whether it's the butterflies, whether it's the different types of plants, they all have like, there's basically eternal death, right? Or rot or decay, which is, oh God, Melania. Melina? No, Melania. Sorry, it's been a long time. And then there's like eternal youth, and basically, oh God, what am I trying to say? It's eternal youth, but it's also it's more about the potential. It's like untapped potential. It's new life, new everything, right? Abundance, all that different type of stuff, which is Mikola. And then there's basically the fire that forges them, which is Melina. If I was a betting man, I would say that those three, and everybody's probably like, yeah, no shit, dude. Those three are obviously going to be key players in Shadow of the Erdtree, which is not really a surprise. But I was thinking about, you know, when you are at the forge of the giants, and you do your thing there, and basically Melina seems to have she seems to have a great room. It's like the one that's missing, that it's like, it looks like a nail that connects all the other ones together. And when she does her thing and basically casts you to Farum Azula and burns herself, you see it. Her hand goes up, and then what follows is her great rune, which to me is like, she kind of represents the forge, because without that great rune that drives the stake through all the other ones, holds them all together, you don't really get the other ones don't stick. And I've talked about it before, but I believe that she is the representation of the self, which, if you haven't watched my lore videos, go check out at least the first one, because that gives you kind of an idea of what the fuck I'm even talking about. Because it does get complicated and it gets heady, but once you kind of have the understanding, everything just makes so much goddamn sense. And obviously we don't know everything, right? I mean, there's a huge expansion coming that's going to have more item descriptions and gives us a better idea of exactly what the devs were thinking about during this, why they were making this amazing game, and the inspiration and the true story behind it. But the self is basically the culmination of all of the different aspects that make us us, when they are realized, or when they're actualized. It's like when the ego, the persona, the shadow, anima and animus, when they all come together and they're in harmony together, the self is what we get out of that. We get, it's basically like the highest version of us. That, and like Carl Jung is obviously like my kind of inspiration when I am talking about these things, as he seems to kind of have this, I mean, between the rings themselves, I mean, they use shadow as a model for all of these different personality traits. All of these Empyreans have shadows and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, so I believe that although don't die here, Jake. Although that the main story seemed to end with us kind of at the helm with the New Order, I don't believe that that's the true ending of the game. I think that there is a definite ending of the game, and that is that we need to get Melina. Hold up. Melania and Nicola all together and basically reforge them into the rightful heirs that they are. I believe that when we go to the Shadow, and here's another thing why I think this is that Melania, she says that her purpose is to get to the base of the Erd Tree. But it's definitely plausible that she means the base of the Halleck Tree. That she needs to get there in order to reunite the two twins back into one harmonic being, a rightful ruler of, essentially the not really the lands between, but the next era. I know I'm not making a whole ton of sense. I literally just kind of thought about this this morning, and my plan is to make probably 3, 4, 5 more just strictly lore videos about certain things before the DLC comes out. It sounds like it's going to come out sometime in February, maybe March, something like that, which gives me plenty of time to get my ideas out there ahead of the DLC, so that way we have this framework of exactly what the idea behind this internal walkthrough and this internal battle that is happening in America. Let's see here. I don't even know what I'm really doing. Strength? Dex? I don't know what item I want to use, so I'm just going to keep pumping up the classics. So basically, as a recap, so what I believe is that America is an ordinary person, and she had something tragic happen in her life. I don't think that tragic thing is Godwin dying. I think Godwin dying is a representation of ego death, as I believe that ego is often represented with this golden aura of perfection, right? Which Godwin clearly was. I find it really interesting that we never really see his face. All we see is just his golden hair. He looks very similar to America, all this different type of stuff. But anyways, I believe that in the real world, something dramatic happened to her, which caused her to basically have a psychotic episode. And in order to heal herself, she kind of had to dismantle her current way of thinking, her current beliefs, her current traits, which I believe represent the individual great runes. I also tend to think that these great runes, the people that they fell into, or the people that acquired them aren't actually the legitimate offspring of America. Um, I think that they were just also kind of like ordinary people who stumbled onto the rings, or the rings somehow took hold of them, or something like that. Like I'm skeptical that it's literally like the the a direct result of two people having offspring. I think it's more of like a personality trait of America's got embedded in somebody and completely altered their physical and mental state. Um, like I don't know if you guys have played the game Evil Within, but it's kind of like that, where it's like all these different people are hooked up, and everyone kind of has like their own psyche that is making the world that they're plugged into around them what it is. So all their fears, all of their hopes, all this different type of stuff. Um, and I believe that when she shattered basically herself, her personality, all the different aspects and traits that make her her, um, I believe that they got picked up or attached to just bystanders who then became completely obsessed and ruled by this very strong emotional force. Like if you look at Godric the Grafted, he seemed to be just kind of this dude, this feeble old man, who now is check that out real quick, thank you. Who's now, because he has the anchor rune, and the anchor rune desperately wants to attach other things to it to make it whole and to make it powerful, because the anchor rune in of itself is not really the thing that is powerful, right? It's the fact that the anchor rune is the thing that other powerful runes use to anchor themselves. So it's almost like this whisper of the rune telling Godric, like, attach, graft, to do all these different things, and slowly he just kind of went crazy. Oh my god, I'm getting my ass absolutely whooped right now. Yeah. And I think that's the case with basically all of these different runes. And whatever happened, it's clear that all of these different runes are trying to be the strongest, be the ones that are the dominant trait of the world, right? Oh, Jesus criminy. It's not good. Not good. Come on now, man. And he disappears. Oh, and he's back. So they're at war with one another, in order to try to be, the biggest, best that they can. And I think that the ones that come out on top, right, like Radon, Melania, they seem to be the ones that America has the strongest uh, um, emotional reaction to, if you will. So, like, to me, when I'm talking about a personality trait or an aspect of one's psychic makeup or one's emotional health, when I see rot, I think of something akin to like heartache or depression or something like that. Something that is literally got a hold of you and is making your life lesser than. Um, which is why I believe something tragic happened to America, which is why the person representing rot, the person with that emotional trait bestowed to them from the shattering, um, why that is such a strong, powerful person. Probably the most powerful person we meet in game, right? Although her and Radahn went to stalemate, we don't really see that version of Radahn in the game. So in game, Melania and the power of Rot seems to be the most dominant force. I mean, it's literally taking over parts of the lands between. So to me, this just screams that something happened to America that is making her life almost like a living hell for her. So if you know somebody or you yourself have experienced something like, true heartache or the loss of somebody or depression, you know exactly how debilitating that is and how quickly that can spread to all the different parts of your life and literally take hold of the different things, the different aspects of your life. And then you see something like Radahn, who to me represents almost like the status quo or resistance to change. He is arguably the second, if not the same level power of Rot. So I think it's you can look around in the world right now and you can see that resistance to change is probably humanity's biggest shortcoming is trying to get somebody to change their habits, to change their way of thinking, that the current status quo, people are comfortable with that, so people don't like to change, so they will, that emotional force in them, that part of their character is incredibly powerful. So something like the resistance to change and heartache or depression, those two things, it's hard to tell exactly who or what is going to dominate that in like an emotional landscape, right? Which is why I think like they come to a stalemate. Now, you could look at Melania as a force of change, which I think is equally as valuable, because in order for things to change, you kind of have to burn the old model down, and people do not like that. Like, I think you can look at Donald Trump would be a perfect example of this, and this is not I don't give a shit about politics at all, but Donald Trump basically burned down the way that we view the American president and the way that that whole process takes place, right? Since him, there have been other outsiders and other ways and different means of people coming into the political landscape in order to get a seat. And that takes that takes burning down of the old system, and then basically building something new. And Radahn would represent basically the portion of society that is totally against that, right? And Melania would represent the portion of society that is for that. And not that either of them are right or wrong, but it's clear that those two forces change and resistance to change are at a constant ebb and flow throughout society. But yeah, so that's, I mean, that's a very like 30,000 foot view of what I believe is taking place. I believe that all these different quote unquote Empyreans have had the outer gods basically use them. They are completely overtaken by an outer god, and to me, an outer god is one of it represents a mental pathology or some sort of emotional state, whether that's rebellion, change, emotional trauma, status quo, like all these different types of things. I believe that when somebody is an Empyrean, they are completely subdued by that one-track minded thought of whatever their outer god is. So Ronnie, for example, is, to me, she the outer god of the dark moon, and kind of like a rebellious, it's not even burn the old down, it's like we're just gonna make something completely different. We're gonna leave this world altogether, and we're just gonna go away. And we're gonna take all these people who don't have a voice and who don't have a place, and we're taking them with us. So it's kind of like, in Dark Souls, like that the Dark Lord is kind of like that person who you're not really representing the high and mighty. You're representing those who don't have a voice and who have suffered for so long, and you're giving them a chance. But again, it's a teeter-totter. It's not balanced. So ultimately, what you would like to see in somebody's psyche and also in society as a whole is like a balanced system. So I think no matter which, and we'll talk about this when we get to the end of the game, but no matter which ending that we pick in this base game, Mending Rune or anything like that, we're sticking with a very one-track mind, unbalanced system. It's just a new one, and my guess is that the cycle repeats and repeats and repeats, because unbalanced systems, they have high peaks and then they have really low valleys, and then it kind of just decays. Where a balanced system like homeostasis, it's kind of just this constant, very gentle ebb and flow, but it's balanced, so it's eternal. And I think that in order for that to happen again, we need to get Melania, Melina, and Mikola all together, and Melania or Melina would be the forge that forges those two into one balanced Empyrean, basically. And then that would be the true ending of the game, because from that point, homeostasis, everything is back in balance, all that different type of stuff. So I don't think that the current game has like a right or wrong ending, or a better or worse ending, because I think it just hits the reset button for an already broken system. And I think that that's why, like, we, the Tarnished, are an empty vessel, right? So we're not already populated by an outer god that has basically taken over our mind and made us into a very unbalanced being. We have the ability to, because we're not enveloped by an outer god, we can see for things for how they actually are, which makes the Tarnished a very strong and important kind of resource almost. in this game. So speaking of Ronnie, oh man, should I do this right now? Maybe I should do the Black Knives thing first. I also wanted to talk about, I have one other thing that I wanted to kind of run by you guys, is I almost get the sense that this place here is like the real world, if that makes sense. Like, to me, we're no longer inside America's mind, or maybe we are, but this is like a hub that is outside of that. What I'm trying to get at is I feel like it's possible that these different tarnished are the ones that are holding the great runes. So like on the inside, for example, let's just say that Corrin here is inside of here. It's clear as day that he is very devoted to a certain thing, right? It's possible that he represents somebody like Moog. And on the whatever this is, let's just say this is the real world, this is what he looks like. But inside America's mind, with kind of the corruption of the Great Rune, his physical form changes. I don't know if that really makes any sense. But I feel like these are these same key players in here are the same key players out there. If that makes any sense whatsoever. Like, to me, Dung Eater would represent Moog. Oh, who did I say? Corrin? So Corrin represent Morgott. And then Dung Eater would represent Moog, because he is like embracing his darker side and like embracing the omen part, and kind of trying to make his way in the world with that. Rodrika would represent Ronnie, somebody who is really in tune with the dead and with kind of the spirits and the forgotten, things like that. So probably doesn't make any sense, but like I feel like there's something there. Like, these personality types in here, when blown up and exaggerated, kind of represent the demigods. So I don't know, just something that we can explore, I guess, as we go. But
always good to see you safe. So, what do you need?
I don't remember like at all what I was doing. Okay, so let's see here. Did I go to the... Yep, I did that. Did I beat that person? Maybe I already did that. Did I give it to him? Oh man, I cannot wait. Oh, here, let's just talk about this. So this great rune is known as the anchor ring, found in the center of the Elden Ring. And it raises all attributes. First demigods were the Elden Lord Godfrey and his offspring, the Golden Lineage. Like that to me. The first demigods were the Elden Lord Godfrey. So Godfrey is a demigod, right? Demigods are, in my opinion, they are like aspects of America's psyche. So talked about it before, but the first Elden Lord Godfrey in America's lifetime, right? Like America as the individual. Her first Elden Lord was Godfrey. That is, to me, very obviously the first version of her animus. The animus is the male counterpart to every female soul, right? And that's within one's own psyche. So the different stages of development for the animus follow as the female subject grows as well. The first stage is basically like a Tarzan type of character where it's just all about physical attributes, all about power, endurance, rage, kind of like a war hungry, is not very intelligent, not very wise, not a great leader, none of those things, not really like a great man, but a great warrior type of person, right? The second one is much more of like it's a little bit more wise. It has kind of a purpose. It's got some wisdom to it, but it's not quite a fully fledged animus, right? Like it still has some developing to do, which to me is clearly Radagon. And it often, Courtney Young, the second stage is often kind of like a religious kind of hero-esque type, right? Where like, and if you go to the first time that we see the statue of Radagon is, it's called the Pilgrimage or whatever it's called. I forget what exactly. It's in the Weeping Peninsula, but Pilgrimage is very much a religious thing, right? So I think it's very fitting that the first time that we see his statue is called the Pilgrimage, and it's literally it's the second stage of the animus making its way back to America's psyche. The animus is like the logos. It is the order, the current order of the world. So when it was Godfrey, it was all about war, domination, physical dominance, right? And then with Radagon, it's all about perfecting this kind of flawed system. It's all about like this golden age and the golden order. I mean, but it leaves out things like death and things like the lower class and all these different things. So it's an unbalanced system. We are the third version of the animus. We have a lot more wisdom, a lot more information, but we still don't see the total picture. We're still not the ultimate, final, fully fledged animus to coincide with America, which is, you can see that in the endings where it doesn't really reset anything, right? Like or I guess it does. It just resets the current unbalanced system. We haven't really made anything whole yet. And I believe that the DLC, whether the next DLC or there's more to come, whenever we get to the end of the story of Elden Ring, it will be the final version of the Animus. It will be reconnecting that with Marika, and that could be very well what the Shadow of the Erdtree is about combining Mikola and Melania together. That could be the final Animus that we then need to reassimilate into Marika. But who the hell knows, man? I don't know. I just have so much on my mind because I haven't played this game for so long. That I'm kind of just like vomiting all these different things out at you guys, which is probably super annoying. But I don't know if I want to talk to Ronnie. I guess I probably should. I'll just do it. But yeah, I think that the DLC is going to be figuring out a way to combine Mikola and Melania with the help of Melina. Here, let's just let's see here. Let me see. And we can talk more about Saint Trina too. But obviously, Mikola and Saint Trina are incredibly connected. One just basically has a golden aura to it, and one does not. So it's probably like Mikola is the ego persona, and then Saint Trina might be the shadow, the darker side of Mikola's personality. And that's the other thing that's super confusing about Young, is that all of these different aspects of your personality also have aspects of them. So it's a super convoluted thing that you're trying to make sense of. But so yeah, the smoldering butterfly, and then the nascent butterfly, and then obviously we have the Aeonian butterfly. But these three things kind of continue to find themselves into our zone of focus.
Oh, again we cross paths.
Have I done this? No.
I believe I said my name was Rena when last we met. It pleaseth me to see Torrent hale and hearty, but tarnished. What business hast thou here? I have no memory of inking thee an invitation.
No particular reason.
No reason in particular, thou claimest. Intriguing. Then mayhaps fate hath steered thee to this reunion. Wilt thou enter into my service? I am the witch Rani. I stole death long ago, and search now for the dark path, that I might one day upend the whole of it, and rid the world of all that came before. Well, has that roused thy interest?
Sure. But that, like... So, Mikola and Mulaney are trying to make this current the current lands between a better place to live, right, for all of its inhabitants. Ronnie just wants to completely get rid of it entirely. She has no desire to save anything here. She wants the whole thing just gone, which is not great, right? Like that's a total dismembering, dismantling of America's psyche, right? If Ronnie and the outer god that she represents, if that ending is true, America is still kind of left in shambles, which is clear by her. The ending of Ronnie's is like America basically just like disappears. She kind of like disintegrates in front of us because her psyche is gone. There's nothing left of it. Ronnie completely destroyed it. Now this is Ronnie's world, which may sound great, sounds different. It might be better than the current state of America's psyche. But ultimately, because Ronnie is incredibly one-sided, right? She killed her counterpart, so she has no hope of making herself whole, right? Which is probably like what, when I talked earlier about like the whispers that the runes kind of say to their host, to the vessel, and slowly drives them crazy, is the one that was whispering to Ronnie could have said like, kill Godwin, kill Godwin, kill Godwin, like all these different things, until she finally did it, right? And now what's left is she's probably not even really herself as she once was. She's probably completely overtaken by this outer force, this outer god that is trying desperately to make themselves, right, the next big god of the universe. And the old saying is like, the devil you know is better than the one you don't. So things may look bad with the greater will and all that kind of stuff, but I would not want to live in Ronnie's world. But we're gonna serve her.
I see. A choice well made. Thou art a rare sword. Not
And the other
many
thing
would have accepted the
that
offer,
makes me think
but I
that
require as much of those under my command. I
the people
anticipate
inside
good work
the
from thee.
Round Table Hold are like the physical bodies or whatever of these demigods. Is Master Hugh, clearly he's known America for a very, very, very long time, which I don't think it's a big, gigantic leap to say that he probably crossed paths with Ronnie. When he says Rodrika reminds him of somebody and has like the same eyes of somebody, I think that somebody he's talking about is Princess Ronnie. So, and like Rodrika's story of how she got here is also really weird. Like she just kind of crossed the sea and like wound up here, and in a lot of different esoteric tales, even in Bloodborne, right? Like big gigantic seas or oceans or whatever often represent like either unconsciousness or death. Like you're crossing over to the other side. So like Rodrika, when Ronnie killed herself, her body, that could have been the split, and Rodrika could be that physical body that crossed the sea, got here, and is now like, why is she able to come into the Round Table Hold? You know, we meet so many people. She seems to have like, it's where she belongs, right? And Master Hugh has a familiar sense about her. And Master Hugh very obviously knows America and without a doubt knows the lineage. I don't think it's that far of a stretch. Now, that is total headcanon. I haven't dug into it as far as in-game descriptions or anything like that, but to me, it kind of makes sense. But who knows? I think it could be one of those things that it's fun to think about, but actually doesn't have any basis in reality. But, I mean, that's kind of what I'm doing here, right?
Good. Then I ask we proceed with haste. There is, in my service, a half-wolven warrior by the name of Blythe. I would have thee join him in searching for the hidden treasure of Nokron, the Eternal City. I have called for Blythe to greet thee below. Take from him the particulars. Ah, and there wilt thou find Iji, my war counselor, and Salavis, preceptor in the sorcerous arts also. Heed not their peculiarities. Feel secure in gaining from them what advantage thou canst. I am sure the others will be doing just the same.
Mm-hmm.
Speak with the three who await thee below. Thou needst not indulge them unduly, but they too wish to appraise thy worth. It hath been a passing long time since a newcomer entered my service after all.
Alright. And one of the reasons I think that Mikola is so frail and weak is not because he's a child, because I don't know if you've ever met. I have a 2.5-year-old son. The dude is anything but frail and weak. He is a wild machine of energy. So I don't think it has anything to do with Mikola being eternal youth. I think it is that Mikola represents hope, healing, a new start, which America's, at least for the initial intro cutscene, it's clear that the shape that Mikola is in represents the power of that attribute that Marika feels at that time, if that makes sense. Like with the state of mind that she is in, she doesn't have hope. She can't see a new start. She can't see any healing in her future. And thus, the physical representation of that, which is Mikola, is incredibly weak and frail. On the flip side, the heartache and the depression and whatever you want to attribute to Melania is very powerful. Even though that the rot is literally eating her from the inside out and losing limbs, she is still the most powerful enemy that we face in game. Again, so I think it's just another kind of another point to connect to the fact that these different emotional or psychic attributes that are represented by the demigods, the size and power that they physically have represents Marika's current psychic health, if you will. So when we enter the game, it's clear that Rot is kind of dominating. Although it was a stalemate with Radon, I mean, he is not even a fraction of what he was at one point, because Rot has literally chewed him away. So she is dominated by this heartache and depression. But it seems that if it is Mikola in the Shadow of the Erd Tree picture, that 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 version of Mikola seems a lot more healthy and bigger and prepared for at least some sort of journey that they're about to go on. And to me, Mikola represents, like I said, kind of like that healing quality, hope. And there's a total lore video I want to make about Mikola, but the fact that he has the ability to cast out outer gods and people, and basically by means of stabbing their brain with a needle, which is a very old school surgery that was done when people had, people thought they had demons in their head when they were actually just schizophrenic or had some sort of mental pathology. But anyways, that's kind of why I think that it's going to be very much Mikola going through and healing the different aspects of America, and ultimately, with the help of Melania, reforging herself as a whole, balanced, healthy individual. Because even when we get the great runes, they still have kind of the echoes of their previous owners and the outer gods that clearly took hold of them. Moog's is red and dripping in blood, and then Rykard's is like slithering. All of these things need to be healed, and even though that we've destroyed them, they're still inhabiting this the great runes. So putting those versions back into America doesn't do anything for her. We need to heal each and every single great rune, which could be super interesting. Like, it kind of makes me wonder if the DLC is going to be, we literally go through, we're healing the individuals that hold these great runes, kind of by means of like psychotherapy or a version of that, where we're going through their past traumas and like all these different things that make them the way that they are, and we're able to heal them, make the great runes whole again, and then by reforging that and sticking it back in America, maybe that's the true ending. Who knows? I'd be curious to know what you guys think. I know I literally played like I pretty much just sat here and talked the whole time. But I have so much that I'm trying to get out and like back on the table, because this is kind of the framework that I'll be working in as I move forward throughout this playthrough, and ultimately, once the DLC gets released, back into there. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about all of that stuff that I just said. I'd be really curious to hear your take on it. And yeah, I'll just be kind of pumping these out. I'm back home now, so yeah, I'll be on a regular, several a week upload type of thing, and hopefully I can get 3 or 4 more big lore videos out that kind of better explain my thought process and how I view it. But I think the next one I'm going to make is going to be either about the Animus and the different versions of that, aka the Elden Lords, or about Mikola and his basically healing, the fact that he represents healing and all those different types of things, and what that means. But yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Jake, also known as the Center Tarnish, and I will see you all in the next one. Thanks for watching, y'all. Peace.